Shopping malls are more than just retail locations in many parts of this province. They're community hubs. And in a lot of those places, Sears was the last remaining department store, the so-called anchor tenant, in the local mall. We've got a group of guests here to discuss that, but before we get into it, let's take a look at this timeline to help set up our discussion. In 1953, Sears expanded to Canada through a partnership with the department store Simpsons. And they opened their first store in Stratford, Ontario, under the banner of Simpson Sears. In 1954, 9 more stores followed, eventually expanding to shopping malls. The Sears and Simpsons partnership continued until 1978, when Hudson's Bay bought up Simpsons, including the iconic Queen Street location in downtown Toronto. The partnership with Sears was dissolved. In 1998, Sears became one of the first retailers in Canada to launch an e-commerce website, initially offering 250 items for sale. In 1999, Sears shelled out $80 million for 19 Eaton stores, including the flagship store located in Toronto. By June 2011, after years of declining sales and job cuts, Sears Canada hired Calvin McDonald as CEO. The company began a massive 3-year turnaround plan. But just a year later, in 2012, Sears began to sell off its prime locations, including the Rideau Centre in Ottawa. And in 2013, McDonald stepped down. The company would subsequently go through 3 more CEOs. In June of this year, the company announced it was facing a major cash crunch and began to explore a sale. Just a few days later, it announced it would close 59 locations, cutting almost 3,000 jobs. After a last-ditch attempt to sell the company, on October 10th, 2017, Sears Canada announced it would liquidate the rest of its stores, leaving roughly 12,000 people without a job. Okay, with that background in place, joining us now to explore what it all means for regional malls and the communities they serve, in Elliott Lake, Ontario via Skype, William Elliott, General Manager for ELNOS, the Elliott Lake and North Shore Corporation for Business Development. And here in our studio, Ed Sunshine, Chief Executive Officer of RioCan Real Estate Investment Trust, owner and manager of Canada's largest portfolio of shopping centres. Sally Seston, Managing Director of Retail Category Consultants. And Doug Stevens, author of Re-Engineering Retail, the Future of Selling in a Post-Digital World. Very pleased to have you three here in our studio. And William Elliott, I'm not even going to tell the joke about how your last name and Elliott Lake are the same, because of course they're not spelled the same, so we know they didn't name the town after you. But good to have you via Skype up there in Elliott Lake for us. Sheldon, can I ask you, thank you. Let's go to a wide shot here. I want people to put their hands up if they were shocked to see what happened to Sears. I see no hands going up at all. I see no hands going up. Okay, Sally, start us off. Why were you not surprised?
Sears has been declining for a good 10 years. We've seen them lose touch with the consumer. We've seen traffic declining in their stores. And so there's really been nothing that they've done over the last many years to demonstrate that they're turning things around and moving on to the right track.
It's such an iconic name, though. I mean, it's been around longer than, well, 65 years almost. Mm-hmm. Where was the particular, can you point to something and say that was responsible for the downfall?
I think it was a number of things. And you're right. I mean, here's an iconic brand that I think when most people think of sort of the mid-tier, middle-class department store, it was Sears in this country. But I think they missed a few shifts. I think there were economic shifts that they missed. I think the contraction of that mid-tier in the retail market was something that Sears just sort of watched happen. They missed technological shifts. You mentioned that they were one of the first online, but they didn't follow through with that, and they allowed competitors through that open door. And then ultimately, there's a demographic shift. There are distinctly different behaviors between baby boomers, who, for many of us, we were talking about this before we came on, we used to hang out at the mall, and millennials, who really have, seemingly anyway, no interest in that kind of department store format.
That takes us to Ed Sunshine here. I want you to give us a sense about what kind of impact Sears' demise will have on your operations.
Happily, very little, because I would say for the last certainly 7-8 years, the question with Sears has been when, not if. I mean, it was clear once they started selling off their crown jewel locations, whether it was in Yorkdale, Eaton Centre, or Rideau Centre that you mentioned, you knew they'd given up. and because that's how you build a brand around those kind of iconic locations. So we basically had 2 department stores and 7 home stores, and the home stores are relatively easy to deal with. They're all outdoor shopping centers, and they're easy to break up if you need to. They're 25 to 35,000 square feet, and there's lots of users for that kind of space. The 2 department stores, and unfortunately, I think the 2 will show you the big difference between small town Canada, and no disrespect to our Skype attendee, and major urban area. Oakville Place, which we own in Oakville, high demographic, super growing suburb near Toronto, with no land that's left other than a golf course that people are fighting over right now. We have tenants lined up to take the Sears, and it's a difficult one because it's 2 stories. But, it's 2 50,000-foot floor plates. It'll divide very nicely into 4 to 6 stores.
So you're moving merrily along.
We actually paid Sears to get that one back. We didn't want to take any chances on that. So we actually paid a couple of $1 million to buy that one back. The other one, the lease was expiring, is in Timmins. That one's tough. We got a 100,000-foot store, even though it's single story. Timmins Mall, it's the main mall in Timmins. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep fighting. It's going to be a challenge.
We're going to follow up on the impact of that in smaller communities and how you can sort of repurpose that space in a second. But William Elliott, before I get you to comment, I want to read something that the Canadian Press reported just a couple of weeks ago and then get you to comment on that. The bulk of the former Juggernaut stores are in shopping centres in communities like Owen Sound and Prince George, smaller Canadian cities where the store may serve a larger geographic area than just those living within the city's borders. Of Sears' remaining 74 department stores, all but 1 are in shopping malls, most in areas with populations under 400,000 and some well under that. Give us a sense, Bill Elliott, of what the closure of Sears means for smaller places like yours.
Well, when you talk about an urban area, when you look at some place like Elliott Lake, our catchment area is about 22,000 people. So it's really a different structure than what you're talking about. These are regional shopping areas. People have to travel to 40 or 50 minutes up to an hour to get to them, and it's the impact is really multiplied by the fact there's nobody here to step in. This isn't like in Oakville where people are lining up to take that spot after one of these stores goes. The small market is really under service, so nobody's coming to take that spot, and it scares people a lot.
And how is that fear manifested in your daily dealings with people in Elliott Lake?
I think what you get a lot of is, okay, so now what? As you mentioned, Sears is such an iconic brand. If Sears goes, we lost a Woolco, we lost a Zellers. We saw in Sudbury, near to us, the Target go. So people wonder, is this the beginning of the end? And we don't always necessarily have a good plan B. I think e-commerce has really stepped up, even in small areas like where we are. But we have a social aspect to our malls that I don't necessarily know. I think you and I might remember hanging out at the mall as teenagers. We have a much older demographic now, and that's come back. That's part of their social life. So they're really concerned that they're going to have to look at a completely way, not only of shopping, but of having that social interaction.
Let me go to Sally Seston on that. We're 100 meters away from one of Mr. Sunshine's very good, very fancy malls, right? The Yonge Eglinton Centre right on the northwest corner of Yonge and Egg in the middle of Toronto. I don't know how much money you just put into that, but it looks like you gave the place a $100 million facelift.
It was about half that.
Really?
About 50 million.
Okay,
yeah.
50 million. Okay, well.
That included the expansion.
It looks like $100 million bucks, I'll tell you that much.
Thank
No,
you.
it's pretty fancy. But that's in the middle of the biggest city in the country. What's contributing to the demise of the mall in smaller places around this province?
Well, it's really interesting because one of the comments was that was the role that e-commerce is bringing to subsidizing these neighborhoods, and when we talk about e-commerce, I think there's a couple of really interesting stats we should take a look at. Number one is that now Amazon has overtaken Walmart in terms of shopping trips, but we're also seeing that Amazon and other e-commerce retailers or retailers that started out as e-commerce natives are now moving into bricks and mortar. And so,
But without people. In some cases, without people.
in some cases, absolutely.
Yeah, you've got that store in, what is it, New York, where you...
Seattle.
No people. You just
Right.
use your smartphone to buy everything.
But Amazon also has Amazon bookstores in New York, which actually have people in them.
Okay, isn't that
so it's
fascinating?
not always about getting rid of people. It's about an extension of the customer experience that they're offering online. It's about them understanding how to bring together what's happening online with an offering in bricks and mortar that complements that.
Doug, do you think the mall in smaller places around this country is in trouble?
Yeah, I think the mall as a concept is in trouble. And I think, you know, if we just look at it from a very practical sense, if you go back to 1993, pre-internet, where did you go when you had to start a shopping journey, right? The mall was the apex of convenience. You had all these brands under one roof, and even within the mall, the department store was the anchor. That was where most people would start off if they didn't know what they wanted. We know now that 56% of shopping journeys are actually influenced now in some way by digital. So people aren't starting at the mall, they're starting online. And that, in some cases, is leading them to an online merchant. And in other cases, it may be leading them to a specialty merchant. But what they're bypassing completely, in many cases, is the department store format.
How threatened, Ed Sunshine, do you feel given the incursion of e-commerce into our daily lives now?
You know what? Threatened is the wrong word. You're required to change. I mean, I agree with 100%. I know I myself, I want to go buy something. You start by getting educated as a consumer, starting online. But people do like to go out. And I'm going to take a left turn here. I read a science fiction novel when I was young, you know, which was a long time ago, by a guy, a very smart guy named Isaac Asimov. He was a great author, great science fiction author. It was called Caves of Steel. And it posited a future where people literally lived in a metal box. Everybody just lived in their own little container, like all the high-rise buildings we've got, but they never left. There was no human interaction at all. And it was interesting because this book was written in the 1950s. And it was a society that eventually came down because people crave human and social interaction. They just crave it. The rise of gyms is driven as much by physical fitness as it is by human interaction. It's become the place where millennials go hang out. They hang out in the gym. They meet other people in the gym. They used to go to the mall. And now I'll go back a little more in history. It's good being the oldest guy here. I could talk about stuff you guys may or may not remember. The original theory of the mall was, sadly enough, called the dumbbell theory, where you had the big weight on either end, which was typically two department stores. Originally, actually, a supermarket and a department store in the smaller towns. And then all the stores were the bar. And people went, you know, between the two anchors, the two ends of the dumbbell. Well, that model has failed because department stores have largely failed. They've ceased to become relevant in many ways.
In your world, have they been replaced by the big multiplex movie theater? That's how you get people in?
There's been all kinds of things. I mean, our bottom line, and we've been focused on this for a few years now, particularly since Target went 2.5 years ago, was a retailer or any user of retail space, number one, has to exist in a way that gives people a reason to leave their little steel cave, get out from behind their screen, and actually go do something. That reason can be entertainment-oriented, it can be unique-oriented, treasure hunt, fun, like Winners. Winners is a huge success. You can buy anything they sell somewhere, but people love going to a Winners store because of their treasure hunt retail philosophy. It can be a gym. It can be something that has to be different than just a place where you go buy something.
It's got to be something to get you in the door, though.
It's got to be something to get you out of your place and in the door.
There's another layer to this, too, and it really is the demographic layer. I guess it was David Foote who wrote Boom, Bust, Echo,
Yes.
who said 3/4 of everything can be chalked up to demographics. And in this case, I think it's true. When you look at the difference in behaviors between baby boomers, who were very product-centric. For baby boomers, it was all about getting the product, and then the experience was sort of a garnish that, you know, you could get a little bit on the side. For millennials, it's the direct opposite. For millennials, it's all about the experience. And in fact, when they're surveyed, about 78% of millennials say they'd rather spend their money on experiences than on products. So I think that we're going to find that shopping centers really have to adapt to that. And to Ed's point, I think we're going to find more food, more entertainment, and the retailers that are left in centers, we're already seeing this happen in developments around the world. The retailers that are left are going to be highly experiential. You're not just going to go there for a product, you're going to go there for a great experience while you buy it.
Go ahead, Sal.
I would challenge only that I would interlace categories with consumers. So there's certain categories where the experience is less important, and then there's other categories where experience is critical. And then it depends on, are you a centennial, a millennial, a Gen X, a baby boomer? I think you have to layer those two in order to say how important is the experience. I also think it's very interesting. One of the stats I read was that now people search more with Amazon than they do with Google. So as a retailer, we used to have these experienced buyers, and they would choose the items that were being offered in the stores. Well, now the consumer is going on to Amazon, they're reading real people's reviews of products, and they're determining what they want. They're not relying on the assortment in the store. And so when we talk about the future of the mall, I think it's going to be in terms of when you're purchasing product and not when you're just there for experiences or fun. It's going to be about giving people the product that they found online and marrying. People may come in some instances, come into your store to see, touch, feel product, and then may buy it online. Other times they may be coming in for the convenience and actually picking that product up at that time. So I think we're going to see a real shift in that.
Let me follow up with Ed Sunshine on one of those angles, which is I think you just announced that you're putting up a lot of your smaller properties for sale.
100, yeah,
100 of your
shopping centers, yeah.
100 shopping centers in smaller cities around the country. I infer from that you're doing that because you haven't got, well, maybe I should just ask you rather than tell you what my interpretation is. Better idea. How come you're doing it?
Number one, public companies are all about growth. We have the curse and the benefit of being a publicly traded company. The market expects growth. The problem with the smaller towns, and I have an edge. I've read your book, Steve. Demographics do rule, in my opinion, as well, and even more so than the income side of demographics, the population growth. Small towns in Canada and perhaps throughout the world, but I'm focused on Canada, they don't grow. It's as simple as that. I mean, we've sort of started to see it a dozen years ago when I happened to read because I'm a very boring guy, I actually read Census Canada, Statistics Canada information, and 80% of the growth 10 years ago was in 6 cities of Canada.
So you want to be there.
And that's accelerated. That's where you have to be.
And
that's where you have to be, and we're just saying, you know what? We own a great property in Lethbridge, and it's a great town for retail. Walmart and Canadian Tire are always going to do okay there, but the rent isn't going up. So it's not for us.
If you live in Elliott Lake, Ontario, then, William, what lessons do you draw from everything you've just heard down south here?
Well, when we approach this, we approach it actually as a social welfare issue. We understood in looking to replace, and that you probably remember in 2012, partial collapse of the Algo Mall. We lost our Zellers, which we were going to lose anyway. So when we looked at replacing that retail, we had to look at it from a social wellness. We knew that there wasn't going to be a business case. We knew we weren't going to attract another big retailer to come in and take over that space. So as a community, we said what we need to do here is replicate some of the social experience by having that social gathering area, by giving people the opportunity to go and have that tactile experience of going and shopping and picking stuff up and putting it down. We know that it happens here. People go and they'll go to the store, they'll see it, then they go home and they go online and they price compare. We know there's been a boom in shipping companies in Elliott Lake who can get stuff. You can get stuff the next day here. But we know as a community where the average age is 56, that social outing, that going somewhere to do something, getting out of that steel cave is really important. And so we as a social wellness experiment invested in forcing the retail into the community. And I don't know that every other community would do that.
So that's an argument, I guess, in your case, for additional government intervention as it relates to what we would normally think of as a purely private enterprise. Is that right?
Yeah, I think for us, that idea that social wellness is really important to a community, I think goes without saying. Is that a government role to fill? I don't know. In our particular case, we took it as a community role to fill, but I think we have to be aware of the fact that taking away some of those opportunities for certain groups in our community, certain demographics, is going to have unintended negative consequences.
Well, tell us this. What was the process like trying to entice another so-called anchor tenant to the new plaza?
Your people around the table can tell you much better what reaction I would have got showing up at their office. We went so far as to we met in Ottawa with a large national chain and said, look, we'll build you a store. We'll build you a custom-built turnkey store if you come into our community. And they said, you know what? That's a great offer. We appreciate it, but it doesn't fit our business model. This particular store told us, they said, we get thousands of email every week from smaller communities begging us to come to their community, and we just can't do it because it doesn't fit our business model.
Doug, what's the reality on that?
Well, I mean, it's in the numbers, right? I mean, an average age of 56 in the community, and statistically, and there's no reason to believe this wouldn't be the same in Elliott Lake, statistically, after the age of 50, you're spending, especially on consumer goods, and
My wife being an exception to that.
She may be watching this program, you know.
That's okay.
She's the statistical anomaly, but for most of us it declines, and you know we're not going out and buying all kinds of big screen TVs and furniture. I mean those years are gone. So if you're a developer, if you're a retailer, you're keeping a very, very close eye on the communities that are attracting young people. And that's where you're investing your dollars.
In which case, Sally, how does the role of a mall need to change going forward if this phenomena is going to survive?
Well, I think it's really interesting that we talk about the community that's coming through your retail area. And if we look at, William, if we look at downtown New York City, very recently, Lord & Taylor sold their flagship store to WeWork. And if you think about the community that uses WeWork that will be coming through that store, it's a community of millennials and centennials, which one might argue is, you know, the retail holy grail. But what's really interesting is it's just like every day when you leave your house and you walk down the street. Do you notice that your next door neighbor has put a bunch of, Halloween decorations outside their house? Probably not, because you're walking along doing one of these. And so as much as there is this community flowing through the retail square footage, you have to do something as the merchant to catch their attention. And I really think that with this retail space that's come up, it's a joint responsibility of the merchant and the mall owner to try and figure out how do we get the footsteps through, and then how do we catch their attention and give them a reason to purchase. I also would raise the question as, or raise it as a question to the others. We've always measured retail by sales per square foot. With so much coming online now, and retail space perhaps being used as showrooms where people come, see, touch, feel, and then from their mobile device or when they get home, they're actually making the purchase. Are we going to have to look at retail and utilization of retail in a different way?
I should get you to comment on that, Ed Sunshine.
Well, you know what? One of the numbers, and I know I'm sure at Elliott Lake they run into it, that one of the factors that is we tend to ignore, and we use the word mall perhaps a little too loosely, because a mall basically means an enclosed space. Most retail today is not in a mall, because malls are very expensive to operate. They're very expensive to build because you're building all these big hallways and walkways that you don't get rent for. Ergo, there hasn't been a new mall built, and there's an interesting in like 25 years, other than Vaughan Mills, I think, is the only one in Ontario that's been built in the last quarter of a century.
And they're getting their own subway stop.
And you know what? They also got probably 150,000 homes built in Maple
Right.
In the last 10 years. Otherwise, I'm not sure it would have worked. It didn't work.
But interestingly enough, the mall in Elliott Lake is a mall. It's an enclosed mall, but we did that on purpose so we could have the social space. That was a big part, so that we could have people circulate within the mall, out of the weather, have that central coffee sitting area. But we made that a design criteria that we forced on the developer.
And I don't blame you but you're talking more of a community center, quite frankly, than a mall. And yes, particularly with the weather in Elliott Lake, you want to be indoors. And all of Canada, you can actually apply that to for several months of the year. You don't want to be outside. Of course, there are equally several months a year you do want to be outside. And, you know, the most valuable space today in any retail facility is outdoor patio space. I can tell you that in the restaurant business, which is an increasing part of every shopping center and a very critical part of every shopping center, most restaurateurs will measure their profitability on how many patio days they get in the course of a summer, because sales go up. People drink more, they sit longer, they eat more. We crave the outdoors in those few months when it's actually nice in this country.
Are you saying restaurateurs in this country then kind of like climate change?
They probably do. I mean, to the extent that it becomes more temperate.
Yes.
And you get more patio days, yes, they do.
I see. Let's give a snapshot here of how much retail space Sears Canada actually occupied, and then figure out what this country is going to do about all that. Because Sears currently occupies about 15 million square feet of real estate. That is the size of nearly 3,200 basketball courts, if you want to make a comparison. Or for another comparison, before Target closed, Target occupied 14.5 million square feet, so very close to Sears. We're talking about trying to fill an enormous amount of empty space.
And it's actually worse than Target, and I'm sorry if I'm jumping in.
Go ahead.
Most of the Target stores were in fairly large municipalities. Ottawa, Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton. The bulk of the Sears stores, because they sold off, as we spoke earlier, their crown jewels. The vast bulk of the Sears remaining department stores are in small town Canada.
Making them harder to refill.
Even harder. Some of them will never be filled, I'm sad to say.
Well, can we look into that a bit? And Doug, why don't you get us started on this? Obviously, people whose mission it is to figure this Rubik's Cube out are looking at all sorts of new alternatives for reoccupying that space, such as what?
Oh, such as, and Ed mentioned this earlier, fitness. Fitness is a huge component now of people's lives. It is a social outing. It's not just simply to get in shape anymore. People aren't buying treadmills for their basements anymore. They're joining gyms. And so we're really seeing tremendous growth in that sector. And they can be an anchor. It's a place that people go sometimes 5 or 6 times a week. So it can definitely be an anchor, and they can occupy 2 floors. That's the other complication with Sears that's different than most of the Target stores, is that these are 2-floor locations. That's not suitable for every kind of tenant.
Population base.
And you need
to
a
make
population
a 50,000 or 100,000 foot gym. And in
That's
fact,
true too.
I would say a quarter of our Target stores, and we had the largest number in Canada, 26 of them, a gym was either the whole space or a good chunk of the old Target space in about a quarter of our former Target stores. But you need people.
You need people, and that really raises the bigger question.
You need members.
If Sears went out of business in these malls, the bigger question is, what about the mall, right? I mean,
that would be my question.
Just slotting something else in there, regardless of what it is, it doesn't necessarily cure the underlying problem, which is the health of the mall.
Well, let's go back to Elliott Lake, because I think in your new Pearson Plaza, you've got a library in there now to fill up some of the space that might have been taken by retail in the past. How's that working out?
Very well, and that was done as a very specific plan on behalf of the city of Elliott Lake to support the downtown, and that was one of the lessons that we had learned. Is if you're going to have a vibrant downtown, you must support it. And that doing such things as putting some municipal services in your downtown. because of, and it was mentioned that our mall is also a social gathering area. Made perfect sense to have the library there. The library drives traffic. Good traffic is good for the retailers. So it made a lot of sense from a community standpoint, but also from a business standpoint.
Sally, we're starting to hear this expression, experiential retail. What does that mean?
I think we touched on that a little bit earlier, where it's not just about walking into the store, grabbing a product and leaving. Consumers want something more. Consumers, they want to have a new and different way to discover, to learn, to touch and feel the products that they're considering buying.
But it goes even beyond that, doesn't it? Like you could have, trampolines or any other number of different kinds of experiences that you would not typically associate with a mall.
Well, I think when you talk about something like that, what you're talking about is looking at things that will drive trips. And obviously the holy grail of retail and for mall operators is trying to get people to come as frequently as they can, because the more often they come, the more likely they're going to buy something. So when you start putting something like a gym in, a grocery store, those are places where you go a lot more frequently. And therefore, if you happen to be at the grocery store and you need a pair of shoes, you're at the mall anyway. You're going to go pick up that pair of shoes probably at the mall. So
he's sporting a big smile on his face.
You
for
may have
some
been
reason.
joking about trampolines, but we've actually done 2 deals with a company called Flying Squirrel, which actually is a trampoline location where they get kids coming in where they're, it's actually a great fitness thing. And as opposed to taking gymnastics, they take gymnastics on a trampoline. Some of it competitive, some of it just for fun. And it's actually pretty useful for what you were just saying. The kids come, it's primarily children oriented, but their parents are bringing them. And they got to hang around for an hour or 2 while their kids are getting trampoline lessons.
So they may duck out and do a little shopping while they're there.
Let's hope.
When you break this whole thing
So
down,
it's funny you
when
mentioned
you
it.
sort of take, I think, everything that we're saying and you kind of break it down, to me anyway, it could be summed up simply by saying, in a remarkably short period of time, really 25 or 30 years, we have gone from a place where if you opened a new Gap store in Elliott Lake, it was a big deal because consumers didn't maybe perhaps have access to that brand. So it was a big deal. So we've gone from a place where the economy's been based on scarcity of options, of information, of products, suddenly 25 or 30 years later to a place where the consumer lives with this pervasive sense of abundance. If I miss the sale at the store today, well, I'll just go online and get that tomorrow. There's no urgency anymore. And furthermore, we have this device now in the palm of our hands that is just serving up new content all the time. So you can't just put 100 retailers under one roof and say, okay, we're good for 10 years, 10-year leases, everybody. It just doesn't work that way anymore. So I think that if we see anything happening in malls, they're going to be more modular. There's going to be shorter leases.
Sorry, more modular means what?
More modular in the sense that they can change the look and feel of the mall on a regular basis, so that we get that sense of wanting to go back to see what's new. If there are new merchants in the mall, smaller merchants perhaps. I was actually in a mall recently in Berlin, right in downtown Berlin, and all of the spaces were really small. I mean, there was nothing, I don't think, at above 2,000 square feet. They were all very small local merchants, and they switched it up. They were constantly changing, and it gave people a new reason to go to the mall.
Interesting.
We're about to start, in fact, I think the shovels are in the ground, to build a big mixed-use complex at Front and Spadina called The Well.
Downtown Toronto.
And the old Globe Mail property.
Yeah.
And it will contain, in addition to, I don't know how many apartments that you can put in 1.5 million square feet of apartments today, 1 million square feet of office, 500,000 square feet of retail. There are no traditional anchors, to your point. We will have a few large tenants, a gym, maybe a Indigo bookstore, maybe a Sporting Life. The real anchor will be a 70,000 square foot food hall, which will be a bunch of small kiosks.
With a minute to go here, William, let me give it to you and tell us what you think others can learn from your experiences in Elliott Lake.
Well, I think the message you've heard is really clear. Traditional retail, that traditional mall, there's not going to be a business case for it. If you want that social hub in your community, you're going to have to go out and make it happen. Business is not going to bring it to you.
Gotcha. That's William Elliott, General Manager of Elnos, coming to us from Elliott Lake, Ontario. So good of you to join us from north of the French River tonight. William, thank you so much. Sally Seston, Managing Director, Retail Category Consultants, Ed Sunshine, the CEO of RioCan Real Estate Investment Trust, and Doug Stevens, who can tell you lots more about this in his book, Reengineering Retail, The Future of Retail in a Post-Digital World. Thanks, everybody, very much for joining us on TVO tonight.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit TVO.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.